طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Learning knowledge is a form of worship, and everything we do can be a form of worship if we fix our niyyah. And Allah Azza wa Jal did not differentiate between sales and riba unless or except because it is a form of worship. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعِ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah has made transactions and selling halal and made riba or usury haram, which means that it is a form of worship. And if you study fiqh, which is something that each and every individual should do, because the Prophet said, as in the hadith, مَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whomever Allah wills good for him, He will grant him the understanding in deen, al-fiqh. So without understanding, you are ignorant, you're negligent, you're a layman. And this makes you like the vast majority of people. This is something we would like to avoid, jazakallah khair. How to do that? By learning our deen. And the concept of learning is vast. Someone cannot come and say, Sheikh, give me the most important thing. What do you mean? What should I study? Tafsir? Or Aqidah? Or Arabic language? Or fiqh? This is not something that you can pick up in one day. There are mandatory things, obligatory upon each and every individual. And there are communal obligations, furud al-kifaya. Mandatory things such as what? How to pray. Before that, Tawheed. The pillars of Islam. La ilaha illallah, ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. What does that mean? I don't know. No, this is mandatory upon you to learn so that your aqidah is crystal clear. How to pray. Sheikh, I don't know, Maghrib is 3 or 4. I said, no, this knowledge is important. No, because I'm studying Arabic. I don't have time to. No, this is essential upon every individual. But the communal obligations are things that you're not required to learn them until you need them. So what are the pillars of Hajj? Sheikh, I don't plan on making Hajj today. Maybe 6 years from now. I don't have money. So is it mandatory for me to know that Hajj has 4 pillars and this 7, 8 conditions, mandatory things? What are the things that break your ihram? What are the restricted? No. You don't have to know these. And likewise, sales and transactions. If you're not a trader, if you're not someone who sells and buys, why would I have to know what is al-muzabana, what is al-mulamasa, what are the types of riba? I don't deal, I don't have money. And if someone who's poor, he says, do I have to learn what is the threshold of zakat? What are the 4 categories of zakat? How to give it to, who to give it to, the 8 categories mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah? I said, no, you're poor. You don't need to. If you know, jazakallah khair. So this is why the scholars, when you look in the books of fiqh, you find them categorizing it, first of all, as chapters dealing with ibadat. Ibadat meaning rituals and forms of worship, such as salat, siyam, zakat, hajj. Why? Because they started first of all with salat, as it's the most important thing in Islam after the Shahada. The first thing to be questioned. And they didn't jump to Salat. No, they started with the conditions. You cannot be accepted, your prayer cannot be accepted without purity. So they spoke about the chapter dealing with purity. Purity depends on water. So they started to talk about the types of water. Tahir, tahur, najis, according to the different schools of thought. There are two only, tahir and najis. And then they started with what breaks your wudu. And then they started with the menses for women, because it's a great deal with purity. And then they went to the prayer, which is related to adhan, etc., etc. Then they went to what you know, zakat, then sawm, then hajj. Then they moved into transactions. Why? These are rituals. Khalas, we know them. After fulfilling these obligations, now people need to eat and drink. And they see things that they like in people's possessions. The only way to get it is to get it by force. And this would mean chaos in the world. That's why Allah permitted buying and selling. You like something, it's going to cost you this much. You have the price, alhamdulillah. And after the transactions, when you are, alhamdulillah, full, had a good meal, had water and everything is, what do people usually look for? To get married. House is, yes, but it's actually what's in the house that counts. An empty house does the job. So they started to look into marriages. So the scholars in the books of fiqh, you find books related to marriages, how it's conducted, etiquettes, then divorce, then custody, then types of divorce, custody of the children, then nafaqah. All of these are related to these things. So after you're full, after you are married, what happens? People become arrogant. People become choosy. So they may harm one another. They may kill one another. So they talk about chapters that deals with injuries, with murder, with theft, and so on. This is the logical way they cascaded things within. And this is why we thought that learning how to deal in selling and buying can be beneficial for you. Why? Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, and this is a Hasan hadith by Albani. He said, you are obliged to learn how to sell and buy before you come to the market. Don't spoil our markets. Without knowledge, you will be spoiling the markets. And he used to go in the marketplace with his stick. So if he saw two selling and buying without knowledge, the transaction is haram, he would beat them. And he said, go, learn and come back. And if you notice that a lot of the Muslims have little knowledge in transactions. And this is why we get a lot of questions. Sheikh, what's the ruling on drop shipping? Sheikh, what's the ruling on cryptocurrency? Sheikh, what's the ruling on this or that? Amazon Prime or whatever they call it. And these things are new, but they all come back to the old evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah, because this is the power of Islam, that it fits every generation till the day of judgment. It's not something that, oh, this was at the time of the Prophet, now it changed. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad. No, this is not true. It is valid till the end of time. A lot of the Muslims in India call me. And Sheikh, we had a property or we had a car, and someone wanted to rent it from us. So we gave it to him in rent. Is this halal? I said, depends. What do you mean, Sheikh? What are the restrictions? We have to know before you give a fatwa. What's the background? Why are you asking? It's like telling me, Sheikh, there's an apple. Can I say Bismillah and eat it? If it's the daytime of Ramadan, no. If it's not yours, no. Tell me about it. Don't just give me a question in want me to fall in your trap. So then he says, okay, Sheikh, I have a 5-room villa. And the rent of this villa is usually 300 Kuwaiti dinar a month. Good? I said, okay, that's a good price. So someone came and wanted to rent it. So I said, okay, you have to pay me 20,000 Kuwaiti dirham as a deposit. And I'll rent it to you for 5 Kuwaiti dinars a month. Is this halal? I said, of course not. This is clear riba. He says, where's the riba, Sheikh? I said, if you knew your religion, if you studied it, you would have known that this deposit is not a deposit. It is what? It's a loan. He is lending you 20,000 Kuwaiti dinar. The deposit is usually 500, so that if paint is scratched, we will fix it from that. To give you 20,000 and then you charge him only 5 dinar for the rent, this means that you are borrowing this 20,000 from him. The interest that he lives in that house for a year, for 2, for 5, for 10, and he's making a lot of benefit out of that. So this is riba. And 80% of the people who speak to me fall into this. And they think it's legitimate, it's halal, because they don't have knowledge. So this is one of the benefits of learning the rules and evidences governing transactions. Now, let us define before we go into the hadith, because the hadiths are clear, and we're not going to spend a lot of time, but the introduction is important. What do we mean by bay'? Selling. Because in Arabic, bay' can mean sell and buy at the same time. So bi'tuhu can be, or can mean I sold it, and it can mean I bought it. It's the same thing. So what is the definition of selling and buying? Different definitions. I'll give you a simple definition that might be a little bit complicated, but when you break it down into points, then you will understand just from the definition. In legislative and legal definition, selling is the exchange. What does exchange mean? Two parties involved. I give, you take. So this is selling, exchange, the exchange of what? Of something of value. So it has to have value with another person. Okay, so there are two involved, whether two persons or two entities, companies from companies, countries from countries. This is still considered to be selling. Right. Through, how is this exchange done? Through cash or credit or a halal service. So I sell you this through cash. Give me 1 fils. I don't know how much fils قليلة. 50 fils, 50 fils. So this is an exchange, cash or credit, which happens a lot of the time. Assalamu alaikum, how much 50 cents? Fils. Okay, I'll take it. Tomorrow I'll bring it for you. This is on credit. Halal? It's halal, no problem. Or through a service. Assalamu alaikum, how much is this? 50 fils. Oh, I don't have cash. I can't buy it through credit, but I'll sweep the floor for you. This is a service. So I'll sell my service. Okay? It's okay. Ali ibn Abi Talib used to do this. May Allah be pleased with him. And he used to do it with the Jews. He used to work for a Jew. We know that Salman al-Farisi also worked in the beginning to free himself. And this is well known. This is a service. So the exchange of something of value. Why do we say of something of value? Something that has no value cannot be sold. So I will sell you a group of ants or roaches. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair for what? This is something that cannot be sold because it has no value. I'll sell you a dead cow. I found it outside. This is maita. It's haram for you to sell, etc. طيب. And this would bring us to a very important issue, because in Arabic it's called mal bimal, mal. But what is the definition of mal? Mal, the most authentic definition is something that the whole community agree to be of value in order to exchange. In the old times, what was it? Gold and silver. Later on, it was banknotes. Tomorrow, if they bring rocks and they say, okay, 5 pieces of rock will get you this bottle of water, everybody agrees upon it, it's considered to be mal. In Arabic, they call it thamaniya. It has thaman, it has a value among us. Okay, Sheikh, what about cryptocurrency? Yeah, it's not the time. Wait. I know everybody's online now. So shall I buy? No, wait, yeah, Sheikh. Brown, wait. This will come inshallah later on. So, the exchange of something of value with another, whether through cash or credit or halal service, forever. Why do we say forever? Because if I lease you my car, this is an exchange. You're giving me money every month and I'm giving you my car. Is it forever? This is timed. Then this is not selling. This is renting. And the law is different. The rules are different. So forever, while not being riba, this transaction is not riba and not a loan. Because riba is exchange. Give me 100 dinar, I'll give it to you 110. So can we say that this is selling? No. But there is an exchange, Sheikh, of something of a value, and it's credit and cash at the same time. Yes, but Allah says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. Allah made selling halal, وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى, which means that they are two separate things. So it cannot be defined with sales. This is the evidence. Easy to understand, inshallah. طيب. And a loan is also exchange. I'm giving you this money and you're returning it back to me, but there isn't something that is being exchanged in return except the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is why they call the contracts of loans to be uqudu irfaq wa ihsan. It's not a transaction of exchange, it's a transaction of being kind and compassionate to your brother. Why do I lend you money? Because I want to help you. There's nothing else, no strings attached. So these are the main definition. When you break it down, it helps you understand. So now when someone says to you, I want to do this, you look at the definition, how it's broken down. Is it? No, there is one condition that is not fulfilled. This is not halal. This is not this is not that. Now there are, as stated by scholars, 7 conditions for the transaction to be halal. And where did they get it from? They got it from collecting a lot of these conditions from reading Quran and Sunnah. And this is why scholars come always on top. And this is why it's frustrating when someone comes to you who does not know Arabic, who does not know the basics of fiqh, who has never studied, and you tell him about your ruling, he says, what's the dalil? He doesn't even say what's the evidence in English. He says, what's the dalil? What's the dalil? What's dalil? What dalil are you talking about? He says, no, I need to know your dalil. Ya خويا فك عني الله يرحم والديك dalil. Do you know the basics of the Quran? Do you memorize the Quran? Do you know hadith? He said, no. Do you know Arabic? He said, no. But I need to know the dalil. You don't have the basics. You go to a neurosurgeon and he says we have to do this procedure and because of this, and they said, show me what's your dalil. He'll kick you out of the hospital. You're not qualified. You didn't do even first year of medical school. So it's not wrong to ask for the dalil when you're qualified, when you have little of knowledge, when you would like to understand. So if you have an ambiguity, a question, a doubt, so you say, okay, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair for the ruling. I've read that this and this and this and this and this and this, and it goes against what you've said. Now you're putting forward an allegation that I can give you my point of view. But when you come from out of the blue and you say, I need to know the dalil, give me the reference number of the hadith. What hadith? I'm answering a question. If I memorized the number of the hadith, I would have been with the major scholars of Islam, not coming here to the lajna, and with all due respect to the lajna. Yeah. What are you talking about? Give me a break. So you have to ask for the dalil when you have background. These 7 conditions, of course, I'm taking it from Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, our Sheikh. They all revolve around preventing riba, preventing dhulm, transgression, and preventing ambiguity. These are extremely important in any transaction between you and even your brother, your sibling. You cannot just do a transaction and say, khalas, he's my brother, he's my friend, he's my colleague. There has to be, these things have to be eliminated. You can't go with a taxi driver, Assalamu alaikum, take me to Jabriya. Okay, how much? No, it's okay, we will not have a dispute. And when you reach, you'll have gunfight. You bring a plumber, don't work without asking how much he's going to charge and then give him the permission. You think it's going to cost you 100 fils? He says it takes 10 dinars. No, there has to be no ambiguity, no oppression or transgression, no riba. So what are these 7? This is not related to the dawrah. It's general introduction. And Isha is in 15 minutes, so I don't want to go to the hadith and break it for salat. And يا رجل يقول 37. اوه انتم مو عن زينا، احنا من القرى. خيانات. طيب ايش اسوي يعني؟ ايش اسوي؟ اكمل ولا؟ طيب. Okay, let's go. As long I'm, we have wrong calculation in al-Qura calendar only in Isha. The 4 salat are perfect. But Isha, they fixed it to an hour and a half from sunset throughout the whole year. And this is wrong. Usually it's 60 minutes, maybe 70 minutes as most, maybe 50 minutes after sunset. To fix it at 1.5 is wrong, especially for sisters. Because our sisters home, there is, like I just thought, 15 minutes for Isha, when Isha is out in 5 minutes. So they're praying it not on time, which is very dangerous. Anyhow, this is not our topic. So what are the 7 conditions? Number 1, consent. What does consent means? That the both buyer and seller, they're doing it willingly. So if I come to a person who has a car that I like and I want to buy, he says, I'm not interested, and I put a gun to his head. So now you're interested. He said, yes, definitely I'm interested. And he sells me the car officially. Is this halal? No. Allah says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. It has to be out of consent. Both of you are happy. And this is why sometimes you may engage in a transaction unwillingly. Your father-in-law comes and he said, sell me the property. Please, come on, you're my son-in-law. Uncle, you're wanting to buy it half of the price. I want to, come on, I gave you my daughter. I regret this, uncle, but what can I do? I'm stuck. So, and he insists on you. Out of shyness, out of bashfulness, you agree. This transaction is haram. Because he knows that he forced you and you accepted unwillingly. Now, the second condition is the person engaged among the two, buying or selling, has to be authorized to deal. What do we mean by authorized to deal? Number one, he has to be free, not a slave. Why? Because the slave does not own. And this is something we may talk about later, about slavery, about the things that may confuse a lot of the Muslims. Why there is slavery in Islam? This is oppression. Where is human rights? Where is Geneva Convention? We will come to that later. But a slave who has this date said, MashaAllah, it's not yours. Okay, what about my Apple Watch? It's not mine. It's my master's. Everything a slave owns and possesses is belonging to his master. So when you see a slave riding in an AMG E63 2022 Barbados, and you want to buy this slave, his master says, okay, I'll sell him for 1,000 KD. You give him the 1,000 KD. He says to the slave, bring me the car, bring me the watch, bring me your shoes, just only wear one thobe, one dish dasha. And you say, Akhi, I bought the slave. He said, yes, but not everything. Everything else is mine. So condition to be authorized to deal, one, you have to be free. Two, you have to be an adult. A child with a checkbook coming to a car dealership and he says, I'd like this car and here's a check. This is not halal, that's not permissible, because he's not authorized. He's still a child, and the pen of accountability is uplifted. If he hits someone, if he does a crime or whatever, Allah Azza wa Jal will not hold him accountable, as the hadith. 3, the pen is uplifted from them. 1, a child until he reaches the age of puberty, a sleeping person until he wakes up, and an insane person until he regains his sanity. Hadith, everybody knows about it. Number 3, he has to be sane. What's the opposite? Insane. Someone who's insane, just out of the loony hospital, and he says, I want to buy this, and he gives you money. You cannot sell him. He's not mentally fit. Number 4, he has to have sound judgment. What's the difference between this and being sane? No, you may have someone who's sane, but he has no sound judgment. He finds something that's worth 1 dinar, he pays 10. And he possesses something that's worth 10 dinars and he sells it for 200 fils. So he's sane, but his judgment of selling and buying is a nightmare. So these are the 4 conditions to be in a person who's sound or authorized to deal. تسمعون أذان كامل هنا نردد وراه ولا ما تسمعون كامل؟
بس عشان 10 دقائق إقامة نعطيهم فرصة يتفضل.
طب نوقف هنا يعني؟ خلاص, we will pause here inshallah, and we will continue with the remaining 2 conditions, correct? والله أنكم sleepy. والله أنكم sleepy. 5. I'm 3. يا أخوان, if we're gonna continue like this, then I have to go into teaching mode, which means that I will ask you what I have said, and then I'll ask you to stand up and maybe ask you to do push-ups. Watch out, I'm very vigorous in this. May Allah make things easy. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه أما بعد. So we mentioned 2 conditions that are needed out of 7 for the transaction to be valid. And the first one was the consent. Second one was to be from someone who's authorized to deal. And the third condition is that what is being sold has to be 1, permissible, 2, has benefit in it, and 3, without a necessity. What do we mean by being permissible? It means that things that are haram cannot be sold. Cigarettes, tobacco, intoxicants. These are musical instruments. These are all haram. So this cannot be permissible to sell. It has to be permissible. And it has to have benefit, use. So if you sell something that has no benefit, such as selling insects, for example. Insects have no benefits for people. So this is not permissible to sell. It has to be permissible, has benefit, and without a necessity. Why do we say without necessity? Some things are beneficial, but they're not permitted because they're only permitted in necessities. Like, for example, acquiring a dog. A dog is haram to buy and to sell, but it is permissible to use in conditions. Is there any benefit of it? Yes. In terms of a dog that catches game and hunts, a dog that protects, a dog that used for protecting the herds, a shepherd dog. So these are permissible, but with what? With necessity, not generally permissible. And this is why you cannot sell them and buy them, according to the most authentic opinion. Also, buying dead meat. This is not permissible, but for necessities, you can use it. So if I have a dead cow or a dead sheep, I cannot sell it, but I can use it to feed animals that I have. This is halal. Buying and selling it, no. Likewise, buying animal dropping. This is for necessity. You can buy this if there is a necessity for it, like in buying fertilizers. In this case, you can do that because there is this necessity coming into place. Number 4, condition number 4, that the person selling has to be an owner or authorized. So if I do not own this bottle, and then can I sell it to people? It's not mine. So it has to be from an owner or someone authorized. So the owner of the bottle came to me and said, Sheikh Asim, I authorize you to sell it. And this is halal to sell because I'm authorized. There is an exception, but this is very minor. But I'll mention it for you just to have an idea. There is something called bay'ul fuduli, someone who's not authorized. And this transaction is a difference of opinion among scholars. Someone comes to me, finds this bottle in front of me. It's not mine. Says, Sheikh, do you sell this bottle? I said, yes. How much? I said, 1 dinar. He said, okay, I accept. And I say, I sell it. Then the owner comes. And I said, listen, this bottle of yours, I sold it for 1 dinar. He said, Yahi, why did you sell it? It's not yours. I said, I know, but I thought it was a good deal. If he approves it, the sale is halal. If he says, no, I don't want to sell it, I have to go to the buyer and say, the transaction is invalid because it's not mine, to give him back the money. This is called bay' al-fuduli. And the companions did this with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet approved it. And there are many forms of it, but this is not the time. Condition number? MashaAllah. It's okay, they're awake. That it's possible that you can deliver it. Which means that anything that you are not certain of being able to deliver is not permissible to sell. So we go to the Corniche, and I say to you, mashallah, look at the Gulf, it's very vast. I'll sell you 5 kilos of hamur in the water. You say, oh, that's very good deal. I accept. I take the money and I leave. You go, where is my hamur? It's in the water. I didn't lie. You go ahead and collect it. This is not permissible. If I have a renegade slave that ran away from me, and I come to you and say, Akhi, the slave usually costs 1,000 Kuwaiti dinar, I'll sell it for you for 500 fils. Wallah, it's a good deal. Here is your money. So yallah, go ahead, catch it. Selling you birds in the sky. I cannot deliver, I cannot handle it. How can I sell it to you? This is ambiguous. So Islam says this is not permissible. Number 6, you sell something that must be identified by clear description or by visual or by touching. I cannot say to you, Wallahi, I have this beautiful car. I'd like to sell for you or to you for 10,000 KD. I said, what type? He said, I don't know, but it's a beautiful car. It has 4 wheels, it has a good engine and 4 windows. Yeah, but what? I said, it's a good car. You think to yourself, Wallahi, okay, I can buy it. No, you can't. Because when you see it, maybe it's a Chinese car. Maybe it's a car from 30, 40 years old. This is why you cannot sell something without either full description of it, as if you can see it, or a picture, or something that's tangible I can see. Something described, no. This is invalid. And this is why among the categories in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited the selling of al-mulamasa. What is al-mulamasa? Is a transaction that is dependent on touching. So we're in a dark room, I'll say to you, whatever I throw to you and you touch it, it's for 1 dinar. So I throw something in you, yeah, okay, I'm fine. You take it, it's not what you thought. You thought it was silk, and then discovered that it was rubbish. It's cost one fils. Al-munabadha is also prohibited. You come to a wholesaler, and he says, everything is for 1 dinar. So you see many good things. He said, listen, whatever I throw to you, this is 1 dinar. Or whatever you throw a stone and it falls on it, this is for 1 dinar. Accept? You say accept. Maybe you get something worth 10 dinars. Maybe you get something worth nothing. In games, when you go to the fun fairs and you put a coin in the machine and you try to grab a rabbit, you may fail and grab a mouse, maybe, I don't know. You may grab it. This is gambling. This is part of the ambiguity. Something you are not able to collect, you cannot participate in. Finally, the price must be defined. So I bought this bottle. Assalamu alaikum, I want to buy this bottle. Okay, I'm selling it to you. Okay, I'm buying it. How much? I don't know. There is ambiguity in there, and there will be dispute. Because I say it's 200 fils, the Sheikh said. 200 or 50?
50,
50. Oh. See, ambiguity. And he's making me drink it, and now he's asking for 200. This is not fair. I have to clear it out before the transaction is made, so that there is no dispute that may arise in the future. So I hope this, inshallah, clarifies and gives you a preview. And this is only the tip of an iceberg. I've managed to summarize pages for you in these things, so that you just have a chopper view. You can see everything. But if you want to get details, you have to land your chopper and get more information. So who's the Sheikh who's going to read for us?
Kitab al-Buyur.
Muhammad, you mention the page, please.
The first page number 463 of the book.
Okay, page. So I have to relay what he says, because he doesn't have a microphone. In the video there will not be enough sound. So page 463, chapter 34, which is Kitab al-Buyu', book of sales or bargains. Yes?
Kitab al-Buyur. باب ما جاء في قول الله تعالى فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا إلى آخر آية.
وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. Okay, I think I just...
You read the English?
Yeah, you read the English for me. The Arabic, I don't think we need to read the Arabic because I might as well read it in French. Fanny, what's the point? I have my notes in Arabic because I depend on Arabic. But I need someone to read the English because I'm very slow in reading English. I don't read English at all. So that's why I prefer to hear it from someone else.
Narrated Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu.
You did not read the ayah, the introduction of the chapter in English.
The Book of Sales, Bargains, Chapter 1. What has come in the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Meaning, then when the Jum'ah Salah prayer is finished, you may disperse through the land and seek the bounty of Allah by working, etc. And remember Allah much that you may be successful.
Okay.
Hadith number 984. Narrated Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu. When we came to Al-Medina as immigrants, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam established a bond of brotherhood between me and Sa'd bin al-Rabi'.
Okay. So I think we should dissect instead of reading the whole thing and then coming back to it again. When the migrants from Mecca went to Medina, they left behind their properties, their wealth, and some of them, their families. So the Prophet ﷺ established a bond of brotherhood. So each one from the migrants was allocated to one from the Ansar, the people of Medina. And in the beginning, this bond meant that they are brothers. So if one of them died, the other one would inherit him. Until the abrogation in chapter 8, Surah Al-Anfal, at the end, where Allah says, this is no longer. Only kinship inherit one another, and such a bond is found, but there is no inheritance between them. So the Prophet ﷺ allocated this companion to this companion, this companion to this companion. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, who is one of the 10 heaven bound, which ranks him at the very top of the companions. As we know, the top companions are 4, and they are from the 10 heaven bound. Then there are the 6. Then we look at the people of Badr. Then we look at this, at the Sabiqun, etc. There are means and ways of differentiating between the companions. So Abdul Rahman ibn Auf holds one of the highest ranks. He was made a brother of Sa'd ibn Rabi'. And Sa'd ibn Rabi', the Prophet ﷺ is a wise man. He knows who to allocate who. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf was known to be an excellent businessman, and we will come to see that. He would not, the Prophet ﷺ, put him along with a farmer or with a beggar or with someone who had no money, because he had to put him with someone in the same social and financial status. So he allocated him to one of the millionaires of Medina. What happened?
Sa'd ibn Rabi' said to me, I am the richest among the Ansar, so I'll give you half of my wealth, and you may look at my 2 wives, and whichever of the 2 you may choose, I will divorce her. And when she has completed the prescribed period before marriage, you may marry her.
So this is what is astonishing. Now, this is an assignment. Sa'ad, take Abdul Rahman as your brother. Okay. Hello, brother, how are you? You may live in the guest room, and I will bring you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you need some money, I will lend you. I will give you. No. Sa'ad did not do this. He did not say, okay, here's $10,000. No. He said, I am amongst the richest in Medina, and this is half of my fortune, yours. Now, this is crazy. I have 2 cars. Actually, I have 3, alhamdulillah. And if someone would to be my brother, I would give him a car and a half. I will give him a bicycle. Even a bicycle, you'll return it tomorrow. Huh? This is outstanding, something we cannot comprehend nowadays. To declare your wealth to someone who's a total stranger, not from even your country. He's an expat. He's from Mecca. and you say to him, this is my financial statement, half of it is yours. Okay, if you're a multimillionaire, if you're Elon Musk, what does half of it mean? Nothing. But to come and say, I have 2 wives, look at whom you think is more desirable to you, I will divorce her. After the waiting period, you can marry her. This is also outrageous to us. One, or especially feminists who are watching this, I hope you edit it, huh? I'll wait for your hate mails. It's okay. Feminists would say, oh, this is unfair. She's not a property. She is not something to sell and buy. How does he do this? How does he control? Ya akhi, think. Sa'd ibn Rabi' is not one of the 10 heaven bound, which in ranking means he's way lower than Abdul Rahman. He preferred for his 2 wives to choose a better man than him. And he wants for his beloved wife to be with someone who is much better than him for fulfilling what the Prophet instructed, and also for getting reward. Not that he doesn't like his wives. So he gave him the choice. And we cannot understand this. It's way above our pay grade. But look at how these, and I don't have the time to go and tell you how Sa'd ibn Rabi' died. This is not our place. What did Abdul Rahman respond to this generous offer? If someone of you come to me and say, Sheikh, this is my bank account, have half of it. I would say, Ya akhi, you're embarrassing me. But yallah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I would say this, huh? I would have no hesitation. Something coming to me from Allah. I would not be normal if I say, I don't want it. But why is he one of the 10 heaven bound? This is his response.
Abdul Rahman replied, I am not in need of all that. Is there any marketplace where trade is practiced?
Okay, this is why the hadith is mentioned. First of all, here he says, I don't need any of those. In another narration, also in Bukhari, he says, Barakallahu fi malika wa ahlik. May Allah put barakah in your wealth and in your wives. I have no need for that, no desire for that. But is there any marketplace where people trade? This is my craft. If he was a carpenter, he would have said, is there any place where people do cupboards and selling? I want to go and practice my craft. So he's asking about a place where businessmen could practice what they know best. So what did Sa'd say?
Sa'd radiallahu anhu replied, the market of Qaynuqa.
What is Qaynuqa? It's a Jewish tribe. So we had Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, Banu Qurayza. Quraysh is in Mecca. It's a different. And then we have Khaybar, where a collection of these tribes may have lived in. So this shows you that the minorities usually have a very good financial status anywhere in the world. So when you have a minority community, they collaborate together, they start to help one another, and they rise to be an influential financial power. This is how the Jews have been dominating the markets forever. This is how they work. Of course, in addition to their ability to consume haram, which is a hindrance to us Muslims. We can be richer than them, but we always have restrictions, no bribes, no riba, no haram embezzlement, etc., which is a favor and blessing of Allah, which shows you which religion is closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. So he directed him to the market of the Jews.
Abdul Rahman went to that market the following day and brought some dried buttermilk, yogurt, and ghee. And then he continued going there regularly.
So he brought these raw materials, yogurt, dried yogurt, white substance that they can travel and eat from it. It's not very delicious, is it? أقط شوي فيه مرارة فيه حموضة. It's a little bit sour, but it gives you energy and it's dry, you can travel with it. And ghee. And these things are hot items to sell. In Corona, all places went down and lost businesses except restaurants. Deliveries, everybody needs to eat. MashaAllah, in Kuwait, everybody eats. Whenever I go to a restaurant, it's fully packed. Guys, don't you have any forms of entertainment other than eating? So, but alhamdulillah. So he went with this little amount and started to trade.
Few days later, Abdurrahman came having traces of yellow scent on his body.
This yellow scent is saffron. And this is usually worn when you are a little bit rich or got married. It's a trace of prosperity in a form. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ with this traces on him.
Allah's Messenger ﷺ asked him whether he had got married. He replied in the affirmative. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Whom have you married?" He replied, "A woman from the Ansar." Then the Prophet ﷺ asked, "How much did you pay her?" He replied, I gave her a gold piece equal in weight to a date stone, or a date stone of gold." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Give a walima, wedding, even if with one sheep."
Okay, so this chapter deals with the ayah. Now remember, why is Sahih al-Bukhari so important in our lives? Number one, because the vast majority of scholars and ummah of the Islam, they agree that this is the most authentic book after the Quran. So whomever comes to try and discredit Sahih al-Bukhari, you know that he has signs of hypocrisy. Because if I want to undermine Islam, what should I do? Speak about XYZ? No. Speak about the Quran and try to discredit it. But we know that no one can do this because Allah protected it. And the challenge is from here till the day of judgment. So step 2, try to discredit the Sunnah. How to do that? Either speak ill about the companions. Speak ill about Ali, speak ill about Muawiyah, speak ill about Abu Hurairah, say bad things about them. The moment you do this, it means that whatever they narrated is questionable. So you've dismantled the Sunnah. If you can't speak about the companions, speak about the way the hadith was collected. And you say that, no, we believe only in the Quran. The Sunnah, there might be authentic, there might be weak. Maybe one of the narrators was asleep. Maybe he saw this in a dream. You try to do whatever. And one of the ways of also dismantling and destroying the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to speak about the hadiths themselves. This is not logical. This is this and this is that. This is why scholars always praise Sahih al-Bukhari and think highly of it and consider anyone to speak ill about it to be a hypocrite. Where does the power of al-Bukhari in the Sahih lie? Scholars say in the headlines, in the titles of the chapters. They say that his fiqh is in it, and we will come to see this. So he started with an ayah. فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. This ayah talks about what? Salatul Jumu'ah, about Friday prayer. Allah says, when the prayer is over, then spread and seek from Allah's bounties. Through what? Through trade, through work. The vast majority of us go eat and sleep. The Muslims on a Friday, they used to go to the souk after the Friday prayer and do some transactions. And this is why one of the companions is named Iraq ibn Malik. May Allah be pleased with him. If he prayed Jumu'ah, he would stand at the door of the masjid and says, "Oh Allah, I've responded to your call," meaning the Friday prayer. "And I prayed your prayer. And now I'm spreading on the earth seeking your bounty, so please provide for me and give me provision as you've promised. And he would go and seek rizq from Allah Azza wa Jal. So this is why the Bukhari only used this as a title for this first chapter. A verse of the Quran indicating that it is permissible to trade specifically after a time of prohibition. What do we mean by a time of prohibition?
The time before.
Before the Jumu'ah, after the call of Adhan, which precedes the Imam saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and the Imam gives the Adhan. Here, it's a time of prohibition. Any transaction that happens is void. Okay, Sheikh, but I bought this bottle after the Adhan. It's void. Return it back, collect your money. Afterwards, repent to Allah, then you can buy it again. And a lot of the Muslims don't know this. So this is why Imam al-Bukhari brought this title for this chapter, brought this hadith to indicate that dealing and buying and selling like Abdurrahman did is a legitimate thing. Because anyone would say, Ya akhi, where is the dalil of selling and buying is permissible? You bring him the ayah, it makes you or asks you to go, and you bring him the hadith, he is the one who asked where the market is and went and sold and bought, and the Prophet approved his action, alayhi as-salatu was-salam. Okay.
Chapter 2. Legal and illegal things are clearly defined, and in between them are some doubtful, unclear things.
So this title is based on a hadith. Every one of you know the hadith. And this hadith is an important concept of Islam, to the extent that Imam Ahmad, Imam al-Shafi'i, and other great Imams of Islam said Islam revolves around 3, and some say 4 hadiths. We will mention the 3 which they agree upon. Hadith number 1, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Deeds are judged by intention. This is one of the hadiths that all rulings of Islam revolve around. Hadith number 2, مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ رَدٌّ. Whoever innovates in our religion what's not part of it, it is rejected. This is hadith of Aisha. The first one is hadith of Umar. Third one is hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir ibn Sa'd, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father. Al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin wa baynahuma umurun mushtabihat. So this is the third hadith. It has many different narrations, and this is one of them. Yes, sir.
Hadith number 985, narrated an Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, both legal and illegal things are obvious, and in between them are unclear, doubtful matters.
Okay, both the translator sometime makes mistakes, and they translate according to what they think. Al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. Is it legal and illegal? There are so many legal things that are haram in our religion. So this is not an Islamic terminology, legal and illegal. You should say permissible things are obvious and clear, and prohibited things are obvious and clear. This is the right terminology, and this is why we always reiterate, learn Arabic. If you don't know Arabic, you cannot become a true, full-fledged student of knowledge. Your knowledge would be superficial, like the cream over a cappuccino. It's superficial. You need to know Arabic. Why? Once 15 years ago, I was doing something for kalima in Dubai. It's there is kalima and there is a manar, I think, or something like that. 2 da'wah centers. And I was doing for them a course on preparation of the funeral. From before the man dies, we kill him. Of course, he died naturally, but yani, and how we wash him, shroud him, and the salat al-janazah, everything. While I was doing my preparation, I came across a hadith. So in order to translate the hadith, it's best for me to go to Islam Q&A and look for the hadith in Arabic and go for the translation. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. One of the hadiths, I found an article written by an American imam of a masjid. And the article was good, the site was good. So I read the article, and the man was translating the hadith. 7 other than those martyred in the battlefield, on the battlefield, are considered martyrs. So the one who dies in a collapsed building, the one who dies by drowning, the one who dies by stabbing, by stabbing. So I said, oops, stabbing. I'm an Arab, I've never heard this. So I went and gave it a couple of seconds, said, Sheikh, why do you translate this? Stab in Arabic is ta'n. Someone who's stabbed is mat'oon, which is a hadith. But mat'oon also means the person who dies through the plague. Min at-ta'oon. So the guy was reading it, so stabbed, okay, stabbed. So imagine if I read this translation, I'm a student of knowledge, and I'm in New York, and a brother comes to me, give me a wallet, I'm gonna kill you. Said, he has a knife. He said, Alhamdulillah, this is shahada. Come on, make it quick, here please. What are you doing? He said, mat'oon. I'll be one of the martyrs. No, stupid. Give him the wallet and go in peace. This was referring to the plague. So the translation counts. You have to know, is it a valid and trustworthy or not? Otherwise you'll bring catastrophe to yourself. So this is an incentive, an encouragement. You are in an Arab country, living here for 10, 20 years, you don't speak Arabic. I know the challenges, because every time you speak to me as a native, I'll reply to you in English. I want to practice my English. So you find it easy, so you're speaking English. No. Insist on speaking Arabic. I will speak to you in Arabic. But when you always speak in English, you will never ever learn Arabic. So put it in your mind that every time I speak, I have to do it in Arabic.